Physical game, and this is actually what we were talking about before, so it's probably going to continue our conversation. Physical games have now fallen below subscriptions and virtual currency on Christmas list. Only 22% of U.S. children wanted physical games. Just as physical games overcame toys at the top of Christmas list, physical video games have now fallen away to virtual currency and gaming subscriptions like PlayStation Plus, Xbox Game Pass, and Nintendo Switch Online. As reported by GI.biz, the Entertainment Software Association found that 72% of U.S. children aged 10 to 17 wanted video game-related products for Christmas, but of them, only a small fraction actually wanted physical games. Subscriptions set at the top spot on Letters to Santa, with 39% of children wanting them. Consoles followed at 38%, accessories at 32%, and in-game currency at 29%. The least popular option was the aforementioned physical games, which sat at 22%. Video game related products were the most popular Christmas gifts, period, though with its 72% even overcoming money and gift cards at 70%, clothes and accessories came in at 66%, electronics and tech at 62%, physical toys and games at 38%, tickets and experiences at 32%, arts and crafts at 28%, and books at 26%. The ESA offered some insight in its report, which surveyed more than 500 children and more than 500 adults. For the latter category, it found that 1 in 3 plan to buy video games for themselves or others, and 57% of parents considered buying video game products for their children. More than 212 million Americans play video games regularly, so it comes as no surprise that games are at the top of this year's wish list, said ESA President and CEO Stanley Pierre Lewis. Whether a family is getting a new console, updating the controllers and headsets, or adding to their library new games and expansion packs, we know video games are a great tool for families to play together and connect during the holiday season and beyond. The shift to digital won't necessarily come as a surprise to many, as digital sales accounted for an estimated 90% of games sold in the UK in 2022. Similar trends are occurring around the world as the convenience of digital downloads and preloading are overcoming physical discs. Even major releases like Baldur's Gate 3 and Alan Wake 2 have launched as digital-only products. That's the reason I won't be trying Alan Wake 2. Street Fighter and Resident Evil publisher Capcom also said back in 2020 that 80% of the sales were digital, while later that year, Cyberpunk 2077 reportedly saw the biggest digital launch of all time. Yeah. So, what do you think of this? Someone top comment by Optimist said, and there it is. The argument could stop now because you can't stop the future. Now this generation wants to just stream. I'm all for digital, but I'm not for just streaming. Then you'll definitely own nothing. Physical just doesn't make sense anymore, especially when it comes to games. Even when you buy a physical years from now, you would have a vanilla copy because all the updates come through digital. All the add-ons come through as digital, so I agree with going digital. Also because I stopped supporting places like GameStop eons ago.
Yeah, I mean, digital is the way to go for the future. We hear it for years now, but there's still lingering of people want to play physical games too. I myself, like I said, I don't mind having physical games every now and then. I still have my own physical library of games for the PlayStation 2, obviously, N64, Dreamcast, PS1, PS2, and all. But it's for the ones beyond Xbox 360, Xbox One, PS3, PS4, and all. That's like depends on how you look at it. Like, for example, who's going to run the servers after the company runs out of business? So it's kind of like, that's a disadvantage of digital games because once those digital games are no longer able to download again constantly on a constant basis, then you have to really be putting your games on backup mode and everything else. You got to copy and transfer and copy and so on and so forth. And it's like, it's like a irredeemable, never-ending task. You want to back up your content all after the companies went out of business, or even the system itself went out of service for online services. That is to keep, maintaining the game servers or the game itself. So it's iffy. It's like a half and half, or here and there, hit and miss. What do you want to do with the digital?
Yeah, that's why I'm going to go back. Like I said, to retro. I actually came up with a way to discover new games. I'm probably going to go after ones I know I want that I don't have right now. Um, whether I sold them or before I finished them or whatever. But I found a new way to discover new games. What I did was, and I just tested this out. I went to eBay.com. I went to Video Game Lot. That's what I typed in the search bar, and up came a PS2 game or a PS2 game um, bundle, a collection of PS2 games being sold. And the first game was 007 Agent Under Fire for PlayStation 2. So what I did, I looked up the review. I found it like an IGN review or like a YouTuber review of it. Looked pretty good. Looks the only complaint was that the game was really short in the single player campaign. But other than that, I looked up on Google Shopping. And I'm like, Agent Under Fire. I can get that on PS2 for less than $5, or at least less than $5 before shipping. It was like $4.50. It's like $4.50, probably plus shipping. I could buy that game. Hey, it's a new experience that I never even knew was out until I started searching for it.
Yeah.
That's what I'm going to be doing for after I get the games that I know that I want. I'm going to be searching for new ones by basically seeing what's available on eBay through a game lot, pull up a review of a specific game or the first game I see, and if the reviews are good or at least decent, then I'll order the game as cheap as I can on eBay.
Oh yeah.
So, um, yeah, so it's not hard. I mean, because everyone says, well, yeah, you can go and get the games that you never knew of, that you never got to try, but once you eliminate the games that you did play, the ones that are priced out of affordability, what's left after you get those games that you can afford that you never got to play? What's next?
Yeah.
How you're going to find out? You can look up the NAS library. There's 700 or 800 games, but not all of them are great. Some of them are terrible. That's how I'm going to do it.
Definitely.
Look up a game lot. First collection that I see, get one first game I can choose, and be like, okay, 007 Agent Under Fire. Pull up a review. Okay, looks good. It's a short campaign though, 3 or 4 hours. Some people say, but for $4.50 and after shipping, it's still less than $10. Why not?
Yeah. Why not eat shit, man?
So and that's basically how I'm going to look for all games, not just PS2 I mean, I saw it for GameCube. It was like double the price. I was like, yeah, I think I'll just settle for the PS2 version then.
Mm-hmm.
And that's what I'm going to do for all systems, not just PS2, GameCube, and Xbox. Original PlayStation, which I play on PlayStation 2, N64, Sega CD, Sega Genesis, Super Nintendo, GameCube, if anything's affordable on GameCube, regular Nintendo, all that. So that's how I'm going to try to see what I missed in digital, because a lot of these games, especially PS2 era or before, or PS3 360 era or before, there's going to be someone who made a review of those games.
At least one review per game for the last several years. Like even the video game nerd is still making reviews on certain games that from the past, from like 30, 40 years ago. That's interesting that you still looking through those libraries from Super Nintendo, Genesis, Atari, even perhaps even ColecoVision, if ever. So more power.
No, I wouldn't go that far, but anything like Nintendo or further forward to like the PS3, 360, Wii U era, yeah, why not?
Yeah, Angry Video Game Nerd is very good at in library and his content to a point where you always look towards him and his other networks of friends to find those older games and just still we get to find those reviews to see if it's good or not and to see what it's worth spending $5 for a game or even up to $500 for a used copy like Ocarina of Time or some shit like that. It depends on who you look towards.
Ocarina of Time is not that much.
Or whatever the most expensive game out there, like Mother 2 or Earthbound, whatever it's called.
The most expensive game is like I think Nintendo World Championships Gold cartridge
Okay.
because there was like less than 100 of them.
Right. Oh wow, really?
Wait.
Wow.
Yeah, because they were just a giveaway prize. And if you weren't one of the ones who won the giveaway, you never got it unless you had the money that like James Rolfe or Pat the NES Punk or someone else like that had, and actually spent the thousands of dollars to get those games.
Right.
But like I'm saying, yeah, the NES library has. Actually, I'll bring up my own example. Because growing up, I had a Super Nintendo, a Sega Genesis, and a Sega CD. But even as a kid, like I had maybe like 30 games for the Super Nintendo, about 10 for the Genesis, and maybe like 5 for the Sega CD.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know that many other games other than the ones that would probably be a lot, like Snatcher and Night Trap on Sega CD go for a lot. But if I find a Sega CD game lot, I might find other games that I've never got to play that are actually quite good.
Oh yeah.
Especially for the Genesis and Sega CD, because most games like if it was multi-console Super Nintendo and Sega Genesis back in the day, I was usually getting the Super Nintendo version.
Yeah.
Just because that was the console I had first, so Sega Genesis was kind of like this for the Genesis exclusives, the Sonic games, which I want to get again.
Mm-hmm.
Sonic 2 is probably cheap as dirt. What else? Toe Jam and Earl and Panic on Funkatron was exclusive as far as I know, because Toe Jam and Earl are Sega properties, at least at the time.
How about Earthworm Jim? I bet those are hard to find after a while.
I don't think the first Earthworm Jim is too hard to find. I think you could probably find it for really cheap. Since this is the last topic we had, why not search for it?
Yeah.
Let's see.
Because I have Earthworm Jim on the PC version, the Nintendo emulator for kind of free, pretty much for friends.
Nintendo emulator or Genesis emulator?
Either Super Nintendo, most likely, the Super Nintendo version of Earthworm Jim.
I didn't know there was a Super Nintendo. I thought it was Sega exclusive.
It was something like either Genesis or Super Nintendo generation era, around that time period between those two consoles.
Okay, price charting following loaded. Earthworm Jim. Yeah, let's see. Wow, it was on Game Boy. I didn't know that. Game Boy Advance. Let's see. Game Gear. Yeah, the first Earthworm Jim for Genesis, you can find it loose for $20.
Oh, wow. I thought... Excuse me, guys. I guess he said I'm losing track of my ability to see.
It was on Super Nintendo, but that one's like $29 loose.
Right. Because I'm hearing... And if I can say this, though, on Triple J, I've been hearing for a good couple of years almost that there are these scalpers, they call themselves, where they're not gamers themselves, but they know that has a value to resell them for a higher price. So for the last at least 2 years, they've been trying to increase these or inflate the prices of some of these games, especially if they're either brand new, especially. So well,
if you buy it brand new, you're expected to pay. I mean, let's look at Earthworm Jim brand new for Sega Genesis. If I see how much that goes for. Yeah, brand new Earthworm Jim for Sega Genesis goes for $225.
Oh, wow. Okay.
But that's brand new, never before opened for the Sega Genesis. So
right. I guess you could say I'm the type of guy to see what things are, not what I want it to be. I see that, it's like, the scalpers want to fuck up the dynamics of the selling and buying of games. And sometimes even used games can be more, not just expensive, but they can't be up there in price sometimes,
And the thing is, also just know how to look for games. Like when I was searching for Agent Under Fire, I just wanted to see how much I could get it for.
Mm-hmm.
What I did was I went to Google Shopping or Google. I typed in the game name. I didn't mention the console. Just James Bond 007 Agent Under Fire. Then I clicked the shopping tab. Then by sorting, I said price low to high, and the first copy of the game I found was $4.50. I'm like, okay, I could have gotten that. It was an eBay listing, if I remember correctly, or a Mercari listing.
Yeah.
But anyway, that's how I find games as cheap as possible. I do Google shopping, sort low to high, and the first listing that has the game, um, you know, look it over to make sure it's not a that it's not just someone selling the box or the manual. Make sure it's the actual game that's
Hmm.
being sold, and you can find it. And scalpers, there's only so much they can sell because games like Earthworm Jim for Sega Genesis and especially the Sonic the Hedgehog games on Sega Genesis, there's so many copies of them that if you try to sell a loose copy for hundreds of dollars, you're just going to be sitting there um,
Hmm.
cutting your beard when it grows, waiting for that game to sell. You know.
Yeah.
So I just kind of gave you my strategy of how I'm going to be looking for games I don't know about once I get the ones I know I want.